Welcome to McGuire on Wrestling.
What do you guys want to talk about?
Let's give the people what they want. Professional wrestling.
With Mike McGuire.
The happiest Canadian camper in the world. Tell me when I'm telling lies. Give me a hell yeah.
Hello. The cat is out of the bag, so to speak. It's a little kitty. It's a small bag, but still, it was something I was looking forward to telling you about. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it happened earlier on the Team MOW McGuire on Wrestling Facebook page. But welcome to the show. Thank you for being here. And we'll get to the announcement, including something I didn't mention in the release earlier on, right here exclusively on the podcast. But for those that don't know, this is the show. Every week we talk about pro wrestling, always for free and always about pro wrestling. You can subscribe wherever you get your favorite podcast. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Every month we're just seeing numbers tick up and up and up, and it's all because of your support that we're able to do these things. That means more guests. That means better guests. Not that the guests we have are garbage, because I'm not that desperate to get interviews on the show, you know what I mean? If I don't feel it's worth your time, I'm not going to waste your time. Then again, people we've had on the show have been fantastic. We had the news a couple weeks ago with my good pal Harry Smith, who gave us an update on his situation after a pair of medical scares, both at the same time. That was crazy. We've also had the new general manager of WWE SmackDown, Nick Aldis, on the show. Like literally the week before he got the job. So you never know what's going to happen here, but I can tell you what's going on. We'll get to the announcement in just a second, but I want to let you know it is business as usual. Otherwise, Dave Meltzer is going to be here. And thank you to everybody that took the survey that went out last week. Lots of great feedback here on this show, on the alternate commentary table. We're taking it all. We want to make this the best set of shows possible for you each and every week. So how do we do that? We get your feedback. We act on it. We don't make a bunch of false promises. We don't tell you, oh, this is going to be this huge thing, and then it's nothing. No. We're going to make it a big deal for you, because you're the ones giving the feedback to us. So one of the things that came back on the feedback was some of you wanted a longer show. Okay, let me see what I can do for you there. I've never felt like I want to waste too much of your time, because you got things to do. You've got a litany of other podcasts to listen to out there as well. So whenever I give you a show, I want to make sure you're just getting the goods and you're not getting a bunch of filler. But if I make that content interesting and we develop some new segments in the show, that can meet both needs, right? Because I've been wanting to do some retro stuff for a while here, and it's going to happen in the very near future. We are going to look back at some of your feedback through the week here. There are a lot of interesting announcements and events that came through in wrestling TV and wrestling media, and people getting signed and people getting fired, and it's been a week of wrestling. And in just a minute here, some more details on the, quote, big announcement. Again, I didn't want to make it a big announcement. I just stole the AEW graphic because I thought it was funny. I mean, if Tony Khan can have announcements then why can't we have some fun here? Let's go. Coming up this week, Vince McMahon sells 8.4 million shares of TKO, but still has lots left. NXT has a new home moving forward. We're a week away from AEW's Full Gear, and CM Punk has returned to WWE's Alumni page. Now, normally this is where I throw right into the headlines, but the biggest story happening this week has to do, for me anyways, with this show. This show started kind of by accident, but here we are, 7 months in, which sounds like a long time, but really, this is the primordial ooze of what I picture this show being down the line. That's why the first survey went out this week, because it gave me a chance to get some great feedback from y'all about what you like, what you want more of, and what you maybe would change. And a ton of great feedback, a ton of positive feedback, so we want to do what's right by you. Fortunately, a lot of you like what's going on here. Some of you had some very nice things to say about how this show meets the original format of what I was doing before. And the chance to continue the intent of that and also build this show and make it bigger and better for everybody, the first thing I got to do is I got to expand the platform. That's the bottom line here, right? I'm never going to charge you money for this thing. I guarantee it. I'm not, every day I'm like, everybody else has got a Patreon. You can just throw one on there. And people are saying, why don't you throw up a PayPal for donations? Pfft. Guys, come on. There's things you can donate to. and we'll talk about that in just a second as well, that are far more important than a wrestling podcast. Is the support appreciated? Sure. Do you want to advertise on this show? We can do that. We're here to talk about wrestling, and we're here to share the word about wrestling to our friends, to people that we hope like it as much as we do, so we can talk about it with them. And one way to do that is to reach more people. So it starts with one, to quote Linkin Park, I guess. Anyway, it starts with one. And the first one is going to be what makes the most sense to me. And the new platform is going to be the radio station I work at, 106.1 The Goat in Lloydminster, Alberta, Saskatchewan. Interesting market, 200,000 plus cume, which is a decent reach. No, we're not Toronto numbers. No, we're not Vancouver numbers. But it's a start. And the funny thing is about these smaller markets, these things, is that they have a tendency to grow and reach out. And the Goat, the station I'm at, honestly has been a legendary brand for over 2 decades now. So to have them on board, not just with Mike McGuire and what I do on the radio for them, but to have them want to get in on this show and help support it, dude, what more can you ask for? I got it. What if we made meaning? So next week, this show starts on the new platform through the GOAT. There's going to be on-air support through the radio station. There's going to be all sorts of cool stuff there. That's all I could hope for. But then another idea came up. Okay, there's a local charity here. We do it every year. It's called the GOAT's Christmas Wish, okay? It sounds like it's the radio station's thing. It is and it isn't, okay? Because what it is it's kind of like a Make-A-Wish. It's kind of like a dreams come true, that sort of thing, where if a family or an individual has had a really rough go, people nominate them throughout the year. And we then take as much money as we can raise in that year and try and spend it on these families, these people. I'm not going to get into the weeds on it too much here because I've recorded this part 3 times already because I get too deep into it. But families who have gone through terrible loss, families that are still struggling, families that need a break, that have earned it. They've been kicked down, stomped down. Life has not gone their way this year. We're not saying we're going to fix all their problems, but we want to try and help. And so we do that by raising money for the GOAT's Christmas Wish. This year we did a radiothon, raised almost $50,000 off that alone. Okay, there's been events throughout the year. And since this radio station wants to support what we're doing here, you and I want to try and find a way to give back. So through McGuire on Wrestling, as well as through 106.1 The Goat, and the two of us coming together, along with Dungeon Wrestling, I have to thank them as well, because without them, this wouldn't be an opportunity either. You may have seen I made these ball jerseys, these baseball jerseys for the radio station. Okay, and they're cool. They got the GOAT on the front and everything else. And on the back, they have all our names and numbers that we chose. Well, I might have made an extra one. And that extra one has the number 84 on the back. And the name over that 84 is Hitman. And this is going to be a one-of-one ever available to the public. Ever. There will never be another one of these made, but an autographed Bret the Hitman Hart GOAT jersey with every single penny made off of this thing going to the GOAT's Christmas Wish. Okay? None of it's going to me. None of it's going to the radio station. Some of it might go to whatever auction platform site we have to host, but that's it. That's it. Every other dollar goes directly to the charity. You guys made that happen. Thank you, because now we've got a platform and we've got an opportunity to celebrate the platform by doing something cool for other people. See how that works? Do you see how that works? When I launched this show, I had people saying, oh, he's just trying to get money. Oh, he's just trying to do this. He's just trying to do that. Guys, I'm just trying to talk about wrestling. All right. I've been doing this for 20 years. I've been in wrestling longer than that. I do this podcast because I love it, because I love talking to wrestlers. A lot of them have become my friends. And I love sharing those stories with you. That's it. So next week, the auction is going to kick off just in time for the holidays. Wow, what a gift for someone out there. A one-of-one Bret the Hitman Hart signed jersey. Like, this thing's never being made again, ever. Okay, now I should stress that there's more than one in existence, because I also gave one to Bret. Okay, so he's got one, and then he signed one for the station. So when I say one-of-one, I mean one that's only ever going to be released to the public, because Bret has the other one and the station has one. So I just, in case anybody ever sees one, they're like, well, what are you doing there? Well, yeah, Bret has one. That's why he's wearing it. In fact, if you look at the graphic for this thing that'll post next week, he's wearing the jersey in the photo. So that's pretty cool, right? Let's get down to headlines.
You want to hear the breaking news?
WWE's parent company, TKO Holdings, announced earlier this week that Vince McMahon, giving himself a bit of a Christmas bonus, making $8.4 million of his shares up for sale. Now, Vince still has over 20 million shares in the company, so it's not like he's going anywhere anytime soon, but of course, Wall Street reacted. The stock price did dip a bit, and everybody's wondering what he's trying to do. We'll talk more about that with Dave Meltzer coming up in just a few minutes. AEW's Jim Ross is taking some time off to heal from his skin cancer treatment that he went through a little while back. Ross made the announcement on his Grilling JR podcast this week.
Well, I'm going to take some time off starting this week. My doctor believes that if I take a few weeks off, I'm not sure how many, we'll see. It's got to heal. That being off an airplane for a few weeks would be good for my leg to heal. So that's what I'm going to do.
Congratulations to WWE's Carmella and Corey Graves this past Wednesday after 60 hours in labor. Carmella gave birth to their baby boy. Dimitri Paul Polinsky was born on November the 8th. The couple were very open about dealing with the loss of an ectopic pregnancy last year. All the best to the family with their new addition. The card for this Saturday's AEW Full Gear is taking shape. The main event will see MJF defend his AEW World Championship against Jay White. MJF is also on double duty defending the ROH tag titles with a mystery partner against the Guns. Hikaru Shida will put up the AEW Women's Championship against timeless Toni Storm. Swerve Strickland takes on Hangman Adam Page. Darby Allin, Sting, and Adam Copeland will team up against Christian Cage, Luchasaurus, and Nick Gage. Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega face the Young Bucks. The International Championship on the line as Orange Cassidy defends against Jon Moxley, and much more to be announced, most likely, because that's what AEW does. And AEW has announced that Mariah May has in fact joined the company. The announcement was made on Thursday that May, who is from the UK, has joined AEW. We talked about Mariah May on this show before. She was making quite a name for herself down in Japan, but chose to head back to the UK, do some projects, put out a calendar, and did all that before signing with AEW. No news yet as to when she will make her TV debut. Still to come on the show, we'll get some of your feedback from the past week in wrestling. Plus, Dave Meltzer is standing by. It was on this day in 2001 that this man would become the last WCW United States champion. You remember who that was? I'll tell you after the break.
You got to stream the alternate commentary table. Every single Saturday, it's brought to you on the McGuire on Wrestling feed. I'm one half of your host, Dimitri Karolis, and I'm here with my partner, Mitch Hondras. Mitch, what is the alternate commentary table?
It's simple. It's the perspective of wrestling from the other side of the railing, the real fans.
That's right, the perspective that you need. You might have a little bit of fun, too. The alternate commentary table. Subscribe free now to the McGuire on Wrestling podcast feed wherever you get your podcast. Cha-cha!
Welcome back to McGuire on Wrestling.
So who was the last man to hold the WCW United States Heavyweight Championship? Well, this day in 2001 on Monday Night Raw, that championship was won by Edge after he would defeat Kurt Angle thanks to a little help from Kane.
Angle distracted by Kane after hurting Kane's ankle a couple of weeks ago. Oh, the spear! Edge got the spear! The spear! And it's over!
That title would go on to be merged that following weekend at the Survivor Series with the WWF Intercontinental Championship.
It's time for the Wrestling Observer Insider with Dave Meltzer, McGuire on Wrestling.
Dave, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm really good. Big news for this show, teaming up with Vista Radio, which is the company I work for. Basically, this is step one to redistribution of the show on a much bigger platform. So thank you for being here for this, because it's because of people like you and people that listen and support the show that it's being able to grow now, and we're going to start getting some more opportunity. So that's the big news today, man.
Awesome. It's always great to see you having some success with this show. Yeah. Awesome.
Really appreciate you as well. Let's start, first of all, with how you spent, well, it's Friday night, right? It would have been, you went to Collision and Rampage?
I went to Collision and Rampage. It was a last minute thing, actually, because I've been counting Hall of Fame ballots, and it just was one of those things where from when I woke up until about 5 o'clock my time, I had done like nothing but count ballots and do like one update. And it was just kind of like, I need to get out of the house.
Yeah.
So I went up to the show. I was not planning on it, but it was a good show. I mean, it was a fun live show. I learned a lot. I mean, not necessarily stuff that will help me evaluate them from a television standpoint, because TV is very different, but I definitely learned a lot about the live presentation and a lot of these guys, as far as like who's really good in front of a live house. And so, I mean, I enjoyed it a lot. Yeah.
Did they do any Ring of Honor taping during this as well?
No. Well, there were two Ring of Honor matches that were early, but it was mostly 3 hours of the live Rampage and then the taped Collision, where a lot of the matches were taped out of order, and a lot of stuff that aired on Collision didn't air or aired in a manner where you would get a different impression of some of the matches from Full Gear than actually ended up happening. And then they did one last match with Claudio Castagnoli and Toa Leona, I guess just for the live crowd, because Toa Leona is from San Jose, actually, originally.
Oh, cool.
And they just gave him a nice match, and people popped for Claudio, doing the giant swing on Toa because he's a big dude.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So overall, then, how long would you say the show was start to finish?
3.5 hours.
3.5. Okay, that's a lot better than the 5-6 we were getting when they came to Calgary. So
yeah,
I'll take that for sure. Okay. Any other interesting stories from that experience there?
No, nothing. Just what you saw on TV. I mean, I guess in Canada you don't see a lot of it on TV, but the FTR Vikingo and Komander match was excellent. They tore the house down, and Roosh was good. Crowd was very interesting, and Adam Copeland is a tag team with Darby Allin. They had a fun match.
Yeah.
But I mean, no groundbreaking news past the announcement of new matches for Full Gear, I guess. And the tournament, which they did not announce in the building, they announced it on TV the next night.
Okay.
So the Continental Classic or whatever. Yeah.
I was curious as to whether or not the live crowd has seen that or not. Okay.
No, they did not.
We'll talk about that tournament in just a few minutes here. There was a story that came out last week, I guess, from either a Rampage or two ago, where apparently there was some backstage drama between Metallik and Komander, where one didn't want to take the pin, and so the match just got pulled.
That was from Philadelphia, the Rampage show that was being taped on the Wednesday in Philadelphia. And yeah, like Metallik wouldn't do the job for Komander. And I don't know, Metallik was not under contract, and he was trying to get a contract. And that was probably not a good way to go and get a contract. I know that they did use him that Saturday, and I don't believe they've used him since. So it was not I don't think politically it was a very smart move on his part at all, really, when you look at his situation and everything. It's not like WWE is going to take him back, so this was his best chance to do something. I mean, he was awesome in his day, and he's a talented guy, but a lot of these guys, from with Lucha Libre, like he was one of the best guys. He might have been the best guy in CMLL when he first signed with WWE years ago. But now it's like a new generation, and a lot of guys have passed him by. And there were issues with him in the sense of, he thinks the WWE style is the best. And for a luchador, I don't think that the indies want a WWE style luchador. They want a CMLL style luchador. So he went to CMLL and didn't get over there either. Because of that. So maybe not, a lot of people were very excited about him being, after he was released with the idea we'll get the old Moscow Dorada back. And we did. It was a different Moscow Dorada. That Moscow Dorada is down there's a new Moscow Dorada in Mexico is tearing the house down. But
yeah,
Metallik is, he's going to struggle now.
Well, and that's kind of what blows my mind is that, okay, you're having to take a pin or lose to Komander. Like, is there any tension between these guys? Like, do we know anything about the story? Like,
No. I think you just saw Komander as like a rookie in him as a star. Komander's lost a lot in AEW, a lot. But, he's very spectacular, and he's as over as a guy who never wins is going to be, put it that way.
Right. Well, then again, he's a spectacle guy to say, right? So that does kind of boggle the mind. If you're trying to get a gig, you should probably go out there and eat the crap sandwich and then worry about getting signed, and then you can maybe start having some pull. But yeah, that's odd. Okay, well, Full Gear less than a week away. Like we've already said, the show is coming up fast here. I mean, this main event picture that we have with MJF, Jay White, I don't know. To me, it feels like it's kind of gotten washed away with everything else going on with MJF. Do you think that is going to hurt the draw for this show overall?
We'll find out. I mean, LA is going to draw well. I mean, they'll be. I suspect they'll be at about 11,000 and $1 million. I think so. That's a success. They'll be their most successful pay-per-view as far as the live aspect goes. In a while. Other than obviously the London show, but. As far as the card, I mean, I think the card, like every AEW card, very often we go in going like, oh, it's not that strong. And then it ends up being a blowaway card. I mean, I don't think that they've missed on a pay-per-view in a long time. And I don't think this one will miss either. I think like there's, up and down the show. I mean, when, I think MJF and Jay White will be very good. MJF has never missed on a pay-per-view when he's in the main event. And,
right.
You got Young Bucks against Jericho and Omega, which is kind of I mean, it came out of nowhere with kind of like almost no build, but I mean, as far as the match itself, it's absolutely spectacular. And up and down the show, Adam Page and Swerve in a Texas Death Match. I mean, the last time Adam Page was in Texas Death Match with Moxley, it was incredible. Moxley and Orange Cassidy had a great match on the last pay-per-view. There's no reason this one won't be just as good. And on and on it goes. It's not every. I mean, I don't know that every match is going to be spectacular, but I mean, AEW's. The one thing that they do really, really well is big shows. And,
right.
And I, even at times where you go like the Chicago All Out and you go like, this one's not going to be that great. It ends up being like an incredible show.
Well, and that's the thing. Like it does seem to be there's two different booking modes in Tony's world where TV's kind of almost thrown together in some ways, but then these builds to these cards, sometimes we even look at the cards and go like, okay, that looks all right. And then the show actually happens. And, these guys and girls, they know they're going to be working each other for a while. So they probably work stuff out and have a great time going out there and doing what they do best. But I think maybe that's where, again, we kind of have to let the show happen rather than ask ourselves, well, is this really going to be good? Because on paper, it's okay. It's okay, but like you said, there hasn't been a ton of build for things like the Jericho Omega team up. There hasn't been a ton of in-depth focus on a lot of these matches. So I guess we'll just have to let the pay-per-view stand alone on its own here. Something else about that show. Do you think we're going to get a devil reveal finally? I
don't know. I don't know where that, I don't know the timing of that or who it is for that matter. I mean, there's a whole bunch of people have been speculated on, from Adam Cole, it could be Jack Perry's return, could be a secret signing.
I'm going to put you in the hot seat here for a second. Who would make the most sense for it to be?
The most sense?
Yeah.
Will Ospreay.
Oh, look at you go.
Yeah. I mean, that's, but I don't know what his, obviously WWE is incredibly interested in him and everything, but to me.
Well, that deal can't be made till February anyways, but they do have that working relationship.
They have but they have a relationship with New Japan. No, I mean, to me, it'd be a way to bring the guy in. I mean, to me, like, again, if in a perfect world, if they get Will Ospreay, the whole year you build to Will Ospreay against whoever the champion is at Wembley,
right?
And do that as the whole year build for the first English-born, major world champion ever in the United States. I mean, to me, it's something that writes itself. Mm-hmm. But you have to get Will Ospreay, and everybody wants Will Ospreay, so it's not like snap your fingers. I just think that. That's like a real easy one. People will say, well, he's not well known enough. And it's like, you give him a year of TV here, he'll be well known enough. And, again, like a guy who you already have had on your shows, you already had to beat Jericho and you've already had to beat Omega on your own pay-per-view shows.
Right.
So he should be like, he should have already gotten a world title match. To me, when you win matches like that, I think like one of the things with, I like booking where, when you beat a top guy, it leads to a championship match. That's why why isn't Takeshita getting a title match? He beat Kenny Omega clean. I mean, shouldn't anyone who beats Kenny Omega, almost automatically, or Chris Jericho, almost automatically be in that position? I think so. So,
right.
Will Ospreay's in an interesting situation right now. I mean, he's going to be able to do very well no matter where he goes. And, there's advantages to AEW and there's advantages to WWE, and WWE is very enticing right now because they're doing very well.
Well, we will have to see. I think we have to get that mask pulled off here soon, though, and find out who it is. And I think Full Gear is the perfect place to do it. Something else that we've already talked about a little bit, but was announced on the show. Did you actually see the televised announcement after the show? Like, have you seen?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I saw it. Yeah.
Okay, so the Continental Classic Tournament is going to be a round robin. Starts November 22nd. Now, Bryan Danielson was standing next to Tony Khan as they made this announcement. They also announced that Bryan Danielson was going to be at All In too, which is good news for him, provided, again, dear God, I hope he doesn't get hurt before then.
That's that you almost jinx somebody when you
right.
That's you know what I mean. You're talking about he's scheduled for a show in August, and it's like, God. Unfortunately, Brian, and a lot of guys in AEW, Brian's been hurt a lot, and I would hate to go like, he's going to be on a show in August this early. I mean, obviously the plan is for him to be on that big show, and and obviously, they feel real bad. I mean, Danielson and Omega was scheduled for that show, and it just didn't happen because Danielson got hurt.
Okay, so the start date, though, is literally in just over a week's time now, November 22nd. Danielson's going to be involved. He can't possibly be in the first round of this thing.
I don't know if he's on the first show, but the way the thing's structured, because you have to do 5 matches in a short period of time,
right.
He's got to be there within the first week. So, yeah, he's going to be back in less than 2 weeks from that. And he had surgery, too. So,
yeah.
I presume he's going to wear a protective face cover, and guys have done that. Guys have come back from broken orbital bones, and remember Undertaker did it pretty quick and wore the face cover for a couple months, and it can be done. So as long as he's able to fly, which obviously he is, but yeah. So I was surprised that he was like, I knew he would be back for January 4th. That was kind of accomplished last weekend, but I was, late November surprised me. That's pretty quick.
What do you think of the optics of him standing there next to Tony Khan? They're announcing this tournament. They say you're going to be in this, and he's still got like the full eye patch on, the full bandage and everything. Like, to me, that just, you're kind of rushing it, aren't you?
I'm not the doctor who did the surgery, and Brian is not a dumb guy. Right. He's not going to risk his life for or his eyesight for anything. So he's not doing it without. I know from his concussion situation. Because I was, pretty close to that situation. And I know that, I know his mindset during that was if anything is going to, he's got his long-term life plan. That's one of the reasons why he's getting out of wrestling in a year. Mm-hmm. So if it was anything that he felt was dangerous, he wouldn't do it. He could wait till January. But, one of the things, Brian's always wanted to do the G1, and it's never going to happen because he doesn't want to go to Japan for a month at this point in his career. And that makes sense. So essentially, Tony's bringing it looks like Tony's bringing the G1 to him.
Yeah.
And look, they could have done it early next year if it was going to be dangerous. So, believe me, when I looked at it, when I heard it, I was like, whoa, this is awfully quick. But I have a lot of faith in Danielson's common sense. I really do. So I don't really, I'm not saying I don't worry about him, because I do worry about him because there's been a lot of injuries, and, doing 5 singles matches in a short period of time, it's like, are we risking something? And we may be, that's a reality, is that him doing 5 singles matches in a short period of time, hopefully, nothing happens. The last injury was a total fluke, though. It wasn't, one of those things where, his body broke down. He just got headbutted in the eye by and that would happen. That could happen to anybody.
I get that. And we've talked about these before with Danielson's injuries, but just going back to the announcement here for a second, just the optics of Bryan Danielson standing there. And maybe it's a lot of padding for a very small coverage at this point. And I get that, because that's how bandages work, but it looked a little sketch to me. Do you know what I mean? Like, it looked.
Oh, like... yeah. No, I understand. And I was kind of surprised that they did it, other than, I guess, I don't know. Yeah. It's like, could you have done that announcement without Danielson right there? Yeah. You could. Yeah. I think he just wanted to, but yeah, you're right. When I saw that, it was kind of like, the initial reaction is, this is way too soon. And then I thought, you know what? It's Bryan Danielson. He's not a dumb guy at all. He's the opposite of that. He's a brilliant guy.
Well, I'm a big Danielson fan. Again, I don't want anybody thinking that I'm saying this to poo-poo on him. It's just a case of, somebody made a meme of somebody in like a full body cast standing next to Tony Khan and be like, he will be involved in the tournament. And I was like,
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Especially because, again, he literally just had surgery. I was really surprised that he's going to be back at the end of November. End of December, yeah. I've seen people, and again, people have come back from this injury pretty quick. But yeah, he'll probably be wearing a mask the whole tournament. And if he's not, then I don't know what to tell you.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Brian Danielson, if anybody knows you, if there's, I doubt he listens to this show, but just take care of yourself, dude. Okay. Something that we've talking about on this show for a while here. And then I saw WrestleNomics had brought it up. A story from Cultaholic made it out there. So I was like, okay, we better get on this before anybody else starts jumping on it too much. But I've been wanting to talk to you about the profitability of AEW and where they stand doing business now. Some interesting numbers, speculative numbers, mind you, but interesting numbers nonetheless still came out about AEW. Ballparking that they had lost about $20 million a year for the last 4 years. Do you see that as being an accurate guesstimate of what things could be?
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't shock me. They took in, I mean, in 2023, they're going to take in a lot more money than any other year, you know, between Wembley, added pay-per-views, more house shows and everything. I mean, and higher television rights fees. So their actual revenues this year, and I don't know the number, but they're going to be way up from last year. And last year was about 106 million. I know that at the end of last year, Tony told me that if you take, and he said this to other people too, that if you take out the money they spent on the video games, they would have been profitable last year. So I don't know if they spent 20 million on the video game. And then he said 2023 would be profitable with the video game coming out. I mean, from all indications, the video game didn't do gangbusters business or anything.
Right.
But, I don't, I mean, that as far as from those other years, that those numbers wouldn't surprise me. But they built, the early years was very much building for the new TV deal. And if the TV deal had expired a year ago, they probably would have gotten an awesome deal. But now WBD, there's between the, what's going to happen with the NBA, and there's so many question marks when it comes to the TV deal. And they were renewed on the WBD side through the end of 2024. So they got about, I figure it'll be the midpoint of next year when that deal gets settled. But if that deal is up, if that deal's up 20 million from the previous deal, and I'm virtually certain it will be up way more than that, then they look like they're in good shape if that's the case. So, but yeah, the key, keeping popularity at relatively the same thing and getting that new TV deal at an increased price. And then the losses at that point won't really matter because the TV deal will be probably I'm going to guess that the new TV deal is going to be for multiple years, and they may be home free with the new TV deal. And if not, there's other places to go and negotiate too. But there's no guarantee that, that the situation with television is the real question, and then that, like, what's going to happen with cable television? Are these deals going to get tougher? And WWE did sign an increase with NXT. That was a good sign. And the SmackDown increase wasn't as much as they wanted, but it was still an increase. And the Raw thing, we'll have to wait and see what happens. But most analysts think that the Raw increase will be in line with the SmackDown increase, wherever it winds up, which, so if AEW can get an increase in that same ballpark, then they may be home free. And really, if you look at what they get per capita per viewer or per 18 to 49 viewer or total viewer, they're a much bigger bargain than WWE. I mean, especially, and it'll even more so because, SmackDown's going back to cable. So what USA is paying for SmackDown for 2 hours is crazy money because, AEW will probably do well over half of what SmackDown does. And for just Dynamite alone, not even throwing in the other two shows. Right. And if they could get, half of what SmackDown gets, then they're home free.
Okay, well, that's interesting then. I guess it all depends on who's willing to spend money where. And like you said, we saw NXT get the deal with the CW as a separate entity. Remember, people were thinking it might be Raw and NXT being sold together, but nobody said that had to be the case. And that turns out that that's probably not what it's going to be now. I want to get your thoughts on the announcement of CW going for NXT. Is it possible that the wrestling deal that CW had was with NXT all along, or was this something that...
No, this actually came up in the last 2 months.
Okay.
There were other people talking to them too, including USA. And
where does that leave the NWA, I guess, is what I'm wondering here.
Yeah. They talked to NWA. They talked to Dave Marquez. They probably talked to... They wanted Ring of Honor at one point.
Right.
The people at the station wanted wrestling, and maybe even more than one wrestling product. because they figure it's cheap programming and they're looking at something, if you're on CW and you can do over 0.10, then you're a success. And I think that they feel that wrestling can do that. I mean, NXT certainly is doing more than double that now. And I don't know if NWA would be able to pull that off. I'm kind of skeptical on that, but that was sort of a time by experiment anyway, the idea. And we'll see. Billy Corgan says they still got the deal, and time will tell what happens with the rest of the CW negotiations.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if we had multiple brands on one network like that. Okay, one more money thing, and then we'll jump over to WWE quick here. But Vince McMahon selling 8.4 million shares, or making them available for sale, I guess. Is this just a move to try and up the value of the stock, you think? Because, I mean, Vince
it actually lowers the value of the stock. But
really?
Yeah, definitely. Oh, yeah, that's why the stock price went way down this week. No, I mean, the idea is Vince is looking to cash out and still maintain. I mean, he's still got 20 million plus shares.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's divesting himself of the company, and he's been looking to do this. He did, look, when WWE was a public company, he had been doing this. I mean, he had gone from, whatever it was, like, I don't remember if it was like 70% ownership down to 34% or 38%. And then so, I mean, he's been doing this for years, just basically selling lots of stock and taking in, hundreds of millions of dollars. And, you could say, well, he could have kept it for his kids, but he wants his hundreds of millions of dollars, and his kids will still have plenty of stock in TKO. But it's nothing surprising. When they made the deal, they knew this was going to happen, and it was actually written in the papers. And Ari Emanuel had even talked about one of the reasons why he thought the stock price wasn't higher was because people knew that Vince was looking at selling a lot of his stock, a large percentage of it. And that would, kind of put a lot of it on the market, which would lower the price. Endeavor has bought or will be buying back some of that stock, and then the rest will go to the public market. If they could buy back all of it, then the stock price wouldn't fall, but the stock price is fallen because of that. And if Vince had sold it at a different point, he would have made far more money, but he was waiting for that dividend that went through in the sale at the end of September. So that's $111 million right there that Vince got. He was waiting for that before he actually put the stuff for sale, because if he'd sold before that, then he'd be out $111 million that he was going to get. So that's why this happened after the whole merger thing went. He had to wait for the merger thing to go through to get that dividend, that big money dividend that was part of the merger.
Okay, fair enough. And part of me thinks that this is Vince just wanting to, he's still in that battle with Trump, right? Where it's like, they're going to find out Trump isn't a billionaire. Well, I am.
I don't say anything. No, because I mean, he would be, if you're just looking at money at your money value, I mean, he'd be better off not selling it. And, he sold it at a low price. I mean,
that's true.
I think the stock's undervalued right now, partially for, there's a lot of different reasons. And some of it is the SmackDown price disappointed Wall Street. The WWE earnings this last quarter disappointed Wall Street. So there's a lot of, but it's still, the cost savings of these two companies being together are going to be enormous. And their money's guaranteed. Whether UFC is super popular or not, the TV deals are guaranteed for a couple of years. Maybe there's fear of like the next deals for UFC not being as big, but I haven't heard those. But with the WWE deals not being as big as some expected, you could look at the marketplace and see. It just seems like destiny that these prices aren't going to stay up. But somehow people have been telling me that since the 70s. It's like, this doesn't make sense economically. These prices can't keep going up. And they've kept going up.
Well, that's just it. When it comes to stocks and forecasting, and nobody knows how anything works. And same with TV rights, it seems. It's a wild guessing game, because people are going to put money where they want to put money. And that benefits some products and people, and others, they get left by the wayside. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see when these deals come up here for both AEW and WWE. Okay, let's go to WWE. A little bit of speculation fueled this week. WWE put CM Punk on their alumni page of their website.
Mm-hmm.
What could CM Punk do if he ended up coming back right now? Where would you see a feud making sense for him?
He could work with anyone. There's no, he could work with anyone. He's a good talker. He'll make anything work. It's a question if they want him or not. And I mean, there's, everyone knows the arguments. There's the pros and there's the cons. And historically, usually people like that get signed. The reality is that this one hasn't happened and they've turned them down in the past. Doesn't mean that they'll turn him down in the future. A lot of the stories that have come out, that make you think that he's going to go in or that tell you he's going in. I mean, a lot of them are just false. But I mean, as far as just, is it possible that he could come in? Of course it's possible. We have to wait and see, but I have not heard. And I hear from people almost daily there, when it comes to that subject. And, there's nobody knows anything. Do they have a secret? Yeah, it's always possible they have a secret, but it's not like,
they do. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's not like Cody Rhodes, put it this way, where, we all knew, beforehand,
right.
or Randy Orton or people like that, where we know. I mean, if it's happening, then only a few people know.
Let's go to the current belle of the ball here with LA Knight after his loss at Crown Jewel. They seem to be starting a program where he's going to stay involved with the Bloodline. I mean, Jimmy Uso seems to be the next opponent here, but where does it go from here for LA Knight, do you think? Do you think he stays with this for a while, or do you think they try and move him maybe towards Logan Paul in the U.S. title, but then he's got people already kind of lining up for him? I mean, where does LA Knight sit, and is he in a good spot right now, do you think?
He's in a great spot. When I watched the show, I thought that they were going to do a rematch with him and Roman Reigns at Royal Rumble. I don't know that. That's just my speculation from watching TV Friday night.
Sure.
Well, I actually watched Saturday, but that was my speculation on it. But they're keeping him strong, and he should be strong. He's super over with the crowd. He's selling a lot of merchandise. He's a big star right now. Believe me, I was at the AEW show and people were doing the thing like all night long, like he's like Ric Flair. So I mean, he's a cult thing right now.
Yeah, the has become the new woo. I noticed that the last wrestling show I went to as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. War Games, we're getting ready for that. Just about 2 weeks away from now as well. The teams are starting to take shape. Do you think this is where we see Jade Cargill show up?
I don't think so. It's possible though. I mean, they could do that. Not a name I've heard, but I'd say possible. I mean, if they're going to do a 5-on-5, then maybe that's the place to do it. So far, they've announced a 4-on-4,
right?
For the men and the women. But I know that there's been speculation and talk, because War Games has traditionally been 5-on-5, and to do 5-on-5s. So probably it'll all be taken care of it. I would guess this week's TV. You'll probably on Monday and Friday we'll find out like exactly what if it's going to be 4-on-4 or 5-on-5. It's
been fun as always, Dave. Thank you so much for this. Before we go though, you said you've been counting votes like crazy for the Observer Hall of Fame. What else have you been talking about this week in the Wrestling Observer? Yeah,
Observer's a big issue when it comes to the business side. I mean, we go really through the plans for WWE, a lot of different international plans, a lot of television plans, a lot of talk about television, the CW deal, with everyone, and the Vince McMahon stock sale. I'll go into that in detail as well, and just all of the WWE business and UFC business that relates to WWE, and they're more closely entwined than ever before, and just the build to the next big shows. And the coverage of the Crown Jewel, all the business stuff that came out of Crown Jewel, all the business stuff that's coming out of everywhere really. So heavy business issue, and a lot of stuff on injury updates, and just lots of backstage and all that too.
Crown Jewel, was that the smallest arena they ran for that show yet?
Oh,
for
no.
a Saudi show? No?
Oh, no. They ran one of the Saudi shows did 3,400 paid, and this did like 9,000.
Okay. It still didn't look that big, but yeah, one of the arenas that they've run a couple of times has been, like a very small arena.
This one, it actually looked less than the 9,000 when I was watching it on TV. It looked it looked to me like a 6,000, but the number I got was just over 9. Yeah.
Okay. There you go. Dave Meltzer, as always, a pleasure, sir. Thank you again for being here, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, cool. Have a great week.
McGuire on Wrestling.
So if you're already a member of the Team MOW Facebook page, you heard about the announcement of us joining the company I work for, Vista Radio, in distribution of the podcast, which is awesome. And again, this is still baby steps, guys. Like, I don't want you thinking that I'm delusional and thinking like, oh, now we're going to take over the world. No. This is still just part of the evolution. But I can honestly tell you that this is something that when I signed the deal I have now, this was something that I actually had brought up back then. So this has been something I've been thinking about for a while, of how we can give a more Canadian presence to wrestling coverage, and not just one part of Canada. Like, yeah, I work in Western Canada. I commentate for Dungeon Wrestling in Calgary. But guys, the thing is, even when I was doing an old show before this and now, like, I don't care. I'll talk about wrestling anywhere. I know a lot of you actually listen in the UK. We got the numbers, actually. It was pretty neck and neck between the UK and the US as to how many people listen to this show. And then Canada, obviously, coming through in spades. So wherever you're listening, just know you're appreciated. And if you got something cool, like, that's why you want to join the Facebook group, is you can share that with people you don't even know. Tell me about some cool matches you've seen. Or even if you're down in the US and you're going to places like, for example, saw a great post this week on the Team MOW Facebook page from, I'm pretty sure it was Devin, who was going to see New Japan Strong. Yeah, he was there for the Speedball and Zack Sabre Jr. main event, which, by the way, how nuts was that match? I missed Speedball when he was just like a couple hours away from me. I'm kind of upset about that, but, sometimes life takes over, but that's the way it goes. Other stuff that we were talking about this week in the social media. How about those Logan Paul photos with the U.S. Championship? I mean, that's what this guy does. This guy irritates for attention, or he does cool things for attention. But let's face it, he knows who he is. He's a bit more of a heel in real life, I think, than he would ever be a babyface. You know what I mean? He does it so well. He's got that pompous attitude, and you know what? Damn him for having the abs and the cut to do that and wear a title belt in the shower and make it look actually presentable. You know what I mean? I wouldn't want to touch the thing afterwards, but still, I mean, good for him. I'd go try that with one of my replica belts right now, but let's face it, it wouldn't be good for anybody. Another interesting post here. This came up with the new home of UFC being announced as Sportsnet here in Canada, which was actually an interesting discussion I had with Jake out of Chicago and a few other people. I wouldn't be surprised if this was part of the relationship with WWE, with TKO in general now, because Sportsnet and CBC, they've both got a pretty good fix when it comes to getting on to big sports partnerships. And that's not a knock on the other companies, but really, when you've got such a major chunk of the pie as they do between CBC and Rogers now coming together to basically own most NHL, if not all NHL hockey in Canada, that's where they got the advantage, right? Like TSN and Bell, they would love to have that. So people were speculating, do you think this will mean that maybe TSN gets back in the wrestling game? I don't know. I think they had their chance, and I think they walked away from it. Or maybe it was vice versa. Remember, they've done this before. They've jumped ship, but I don't see a possibility of Sportsnet giving up WWE, especially in this country, because it's a pretty hot property here. Plus, TSN's got AEW. If TSN, were doing the right thing, in my opinion, and this is just opinion, which not legally binding, they would have expanded the networks to cover more AEW, and they would have really built it up, but they've failed to do that. Maybe they're not seeing their ratings revenue off of it, but at the same time, you guys aren't really pushing it. So what are you supposed to expect when it comes to that? Either way, very interesting discussion. And this is very also inside the box for Canadian fans. I realize if you're listening in the UK right now, you're like, huh? But that's kind of how it goes here. It's very, very, very tight when it comes to who gets the best broadcasting deals, because we don't have the population and we don't have the size of business that even the States does, right? It's just not it's not a thing. Also, this was kind of fun. Tommy Lang out of Iowa. What's up, Tommy? He posted a picture of the Money Plane poster, and I guess he saw this on John Oliver. They played a clip from Money Plane starring Kelsey Grammer, Frazier, Denise Richards, and Adam Copeland. I never knew this was a thing, but I did watch the trailer. It is, it's not on my must-see list, but let's just say that not a lot of things are these days when it comes to movies starring Kelsey Grammer. And then a lot of discussion following the announcement of NXT moving to the CW in the U.S. Again, I think NXT stays right where it is on Sportsnet with their Sportsnet Now or Sportsnet Plus, what they're calling it. That's honestly how I watch all my WWE, because in Canada, we get Raw and SmackDown on the app with the rest of the shows. Now, we don't get a lot of the archive content anymore, and we also don't get a lot of the new things, like the Superfan Vlad documentary that came out. I still have yet to see it because they don't put it on the WWE network in Canada, which boggles my mind. That's the one thing when they did this merger, it kind of stunk. And for the longest time, I actually still had a US WWE network subscription until they flipped to Peacock, and it's a giant pain to try and make that work. But anyway, it's out there, and if you've seen the Supervan Vlad doc, let me know how it is. Let me know if it's worth the watch. I mean, the guy seems cool. I don't know anything about him other than, he was always that jacked guy that was in the front row at every show and still goes to a lot of shows. It was always my dream to be one of those guys. I was like, man, if I just hit it rich, and, well, safe to say, that hasn't happened yet. But, I mean, hey, there's still time. Why is that, by the way? Most of the times you see these lottery winners, they're like in their 70s. And it's like, okay, well, good on you. I mean, there shouldn't be an age limit on when you can have fun, but can we not hit somebody in their, mid-30s, early 40s, get out there and still, I want to quit my job for a bit, and I want us to go screw around and then come back and not worry about things, Yeah, anyway, that's another topic for another day. This is going to probably wrap things up for this week, my friend. Now, don't worry. I have gotten the feedback. We are going to start looking at doing some more segments, some more fun. I hope you like the little trivia teaser that happened earlier in the show here. I want to do more of that. I've been wanting to do that for 2 years, actually, and I just kind of got up off my butt and did it here. But still lots to talk about in the world of wrestling. We have a pay-per-view this coming Saturday with AEW's Full Gear. And then, of course, the Survivor Series the week after. Working on having a special guest join me after Survivor Series, so we might do a little bonus show for that as well. Other than that, it's been a great week, my friends. Thank you for being here. Thank you for spreading the word. And most importantly, as always, thank you for listening and letting me do what I do. Next week, we debut on the new platform. Next week, we kick off the Bret Hart signed jersey auction. And it's all because of you listening to this and your support. So thank you again. Until next week, my friend, play safe, drive safe. Be seeing ya.